Welcome back to the channel.
Oh, it's good to be back.
This time we're taking a look at A Course in Miracles.
Yes.
It's a spiritual text that's sparked quite a bit of conversation and, contemplation.
It really has.
And we've got excerpts from a few different sections of the course.
Okay.
We've got the text, the workbook for students,
All right.
and even the manual for teachers to kind of guide this exploration.
Sounds good.
And one of the things that jumps out right away is this idea of forgiveness, right?
Yeah, that's front and center in the course.
But it's not exactly the kind of forgiveness we usually think of, is it?
No, it's not about saying what someone did was okay or condoning bad behavior.
Right.
It's more about changing how we see the situation.
I see.
A Course in Miracles says forgiveness is a radical shift in our perception.
Okay.
It's about seeing beyond the ego's illusions and recognizing the inherent innocence in everyone.
So you're saying everyone is inherently innocent,
That's what the Course teaches, yes.
including ourselves.
Especially ourselves.
So how do we even begin to see things that way?
Well, the Course suggests that we've all bought into a system of thought that separates us from one another and from our true nature.
Okay.
Forgiveness, in this context, is about dismantling that system.
And how does that tie into the idea of miracles?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
A Course in Miracles reframes miracles,
Okay.
not as supernatural events, but as natural outcomes of choosing forgiveness.
So you're saying that miracles are just a natural part of life when we forgive.
That's the idea.
So it's not about praying for a specific outcome.
Right.
Or hoping for some kind of divine intervention.
Exactly.
But about aligning our minds with a higher power.
A power that's already within us.
Okay, so that makes sense.
The text emphasizes that true learning isn't passive absorption of information.
It's not just about reading and memorizing.
No, it's about demonstrating.
Putting it into practice.
Exactly.
We learn by embodying the principles, but putting forgiveness into practice, and then observing the shifts that happen in our own lives.
It's about experiencing the principles in action.
The manual for teachers also dives into the idea of different levels of teaching, suggesting that we all have the potential to be what it calls teachers of God.
And it emphasizes that encounters are never accidental.
Like everything happens for a reason?
There's purpose behind every connection we make.
Interesting.
Every interaction, every relationship offers an opportunity for growth
For healing.
and for demonstrating the principles of the Course.
I see.
A Course in Miracles also encourages us to question the meaning we assign to the world.
Oh, it's a big one.
Right. It suggests that if our world feels meaningless or fear-inducing,
Which, let's be honest, it often does.
it's because we're projecting those thoughts onto it.
So our perception creates our reality.
That's a key principle in the Course.
Okay, and that leads to another concept that I'm curious about. Sacrifice.
Yeah, sacrifice is definitely redefined in A Course in Miracles.
So it's not about giving up things we value.
Not in the traditional sense.
Right.
True sacrifice, according to the Course, is recognizing that worldly possessions and pleasures
Those things we tend to chase after.
don't hold the ultimate meaning we often ascribe to them.
So it's a shift in attachment,
From the material to the spiritual.
which brings us to relinquishment.
Yes, relinquishment is all about letting go.
But it's not about denying ourselves joy or abundance.
It's more about releasing the grip of the ego.
That part of us that's always afraid and wants to hold on tight.
The ego keeps us tied to a limited and fear-based perspective.
So how do we actually do that?
Well, the workbook for students offers some practical tools.
Okay.
It includes things like repeating affirmations.
Like positive statements?
Right. Things like, my thoughts do not mean anything.
My thoughts do not mean anything.
And I am determined to see things differently.
I see. So those affirmations help us break free from those ingrained thought patterns that just keep us stuck.
Exactly. Those patterns that perpetuate suffering.
And speaking of suffering, A Course in Miracles also delves into the nature of sickness and healing.
Yeah, it proposes that sickness is ultimately a decision of the mind.
Whoa, that's a powerful statement.
Right. And healing comes from recognizing the body's true purpose as a vessel for God's voice.
So our bodies are not separate from our minds.
They reflect our internal state. So if we want to experience physical healing,
We need to address the mental and emotional patterns that contribute to disease.
that's what the Course suggests.
Okay, that's a lot to think about.
It is, and we're just scratching the surface.
Oh, the deep dive, right?
That's for sure.
The Course emphasizes the power of our will.
It says we have the capacity to choose happiness as our primary function
To align our will with God's will.
and experience true freedom and joy.
But how do we reconcile that with all the suffering we see in the world?
A good question.
How can we choose happiness when we're surrounded by so much pain and injustice?
Well, that's where the concept of the illusion of the body comes in.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
A Course in Miracles suggests that our true identity is not our physical form,
Mhm.
but our eternal spiritual essence,
So the body becomes a kind of symbol.
a representation of the ego's belief in separation.
So if we can loosen our grip on that belief
We can start to see beyond the limitations of the physical world
and experience a deeper level of connection.
and joy. The Course also underscores that madness,
Okay,
like magic, has no power to create anything real.
so it's all an illusion.
True power lies in recognizing the thought system behind madness.
The ego's voice that tells us we are separate and vulnerable.
Exactly. And fear, especially the fear of God, is presented as an illusion.
A fabrication of the ego.
It's about recognizing that God's love is the only true cause.
And that love casts out all fear.
There's this beautiful recurring theme of returning to a state of innocence,
Like going back to the beginning.
recognizing that we are as God created us.
Sinless and whole.
The Course invites us to see the world through the eyes of Christ.
To see the holiness and innocence in everyone and everything.
And ultimately, it reminds us that we have the power to choose between misperception and salvation.
In every situation.
So if we're holding on to grievances,
If we're seeing the world through a lens of blame and judgment,
we're blocking ourselves from experiencing the healing power of forgiveness.
we're choosing to see the problem instead of the solution.
That's a powerful way to put it.
It really is, and it makes you think about how much control we actually have over our own experience.
We have more control than we realize,
It's just a matter of choosing to see things differently.
and choosing love over fear. And it's fascinating how the Course reframes success, right?
Yeah, it really challenges those worldly ideas of success and happiness.
That points us inward.
Yeah, it reminds us that true, lasting happiness doesn't come from external achievements,
Our possessions.
but from aligning our will with what the Course calls God's will,
And that alignment brings us to another important point,
which is,
the Holy Spirit.
oh,
A Course in Miracles emphasizes the Holy Spirit as our inner guide,
our inner guide.
helping us to navigate this shift in perspective.
It suggests that when we quiet the ego's voice, right, and tune into the guidance of the Holy Spirit,
We open ourselves up
we open ourselves up to experiencing those
to
miracles.
seeing the world through love instead of fear.
And the workbook for students offers some practical exercises for this, right?
It does. It's not just theoretical.
It's about actually putting these principles into practice.
In our daily lives.
One of the things that stood out to me in the workbook was the emphasis on practice.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not enough to just read the book and understand it intellectually.
You have to actually do the work.
Right, you have to train your mind to see the world differently.
And the workbook encourages us to look at specific situations.
The ones that trigger us.
Yeah, that cause fear or anger, and consciously choose a different response.
So like if I'm feeling angry about something,
You can use the workbook exercises to help you shift your perspective.
it guides us to repeat affirmations like, I am determined to see this differently.
Or, God is the strength in which I trust.
Yeah, those affirmations can be so powerful.
They help to break those old patterns of thinking.
The ones that keep us stuck in negativity.
And as we practice these principles, the Course reminds us,
That the world we experience is a reflection of our internal state.
if we're projecting fear and judgment, that's what we'll see.
But if we choose love and forgiveness,
The world will reflect that back to us.
it's like looking through a different lens.
Yeah, you start to see the world with new eyes.
And one of the most challenging concepts in the Course
At least for me.
is this idea of relinquishing our attachment to the body.
It's a tough one.
It's hard to grasp, especially in a world that's so focused on physical appearance.
Add achievement.
But the Course suggests that our true self
Our spiritual essence.
is eternal.
And limitless.
It invites us to shift our identification,
From the physical to the spiritual.
to recognize that true life exists beyond the body.
Beyond the limitations of the material world.
And when we make that shift, when we loosen that grip on the body,
We start to see death differently.
death becomes not an ending.
But a transition.
The Course emphasizes that letting go of our attachment to the body,
Also means letting go of fear and suffering.
because so much of our fear comes from believing that we are separate,
Vulnerable.
subject to all the uncertainties of life.
But when we recognize our true nature as spirit, as part of God's creation.
We tap into a deeper level of peace.
And liberation.
We realize that we are not alone.
We are eternally connected to something much greater than ourselves.
A source of love and power that transcends the physical realm.
And in that space of peace and liberation,
we can fully embrace forgiveness.
Seeing ourselves and others as God sees us,
innocent and whole.
Forgiveness becomes an act of self-love.
It's about releasing ourselves from judgment and guilt.
And stepping into the freedom of our true identity.
As children of God.
Connected by love that goes beyond time and space.
We're all part of one unified consciousness.
That's the message of A Course in Miracles.
It's a message that challenges us to see the world differently.
To question everything we thought we knew.
And to embrace a radically different way of being.
It's not an easy path.
But it's a path that offers incredible hope.
And the promise of true peace and happiness.
A happiness that doesn't depend on external circumstances.
But that comes from a deep inner knowing.
A knowing that we are connected to something much greater than ourselves.
The Course encourages us to choose that peace and happiness.
Not someday in the future.
But right here, right now.
It reminds us that heaven is not a place we go to after we die.
It's a state of mind that we can access in every moment.
By aligning our will with the power that's already within us.
A power that knows no limits.
And that holds the key to our true liberation.
It's an invitation to embark on a journey of self-discovery.
To question everything we thought we knew.
And to embrace a new way of seeing ourselves and the world.
It's a journey that can be challenging.
But it's also incredibly rewarding.
Leading us back to our true home.
To the love and peace that have always been ours.
It's about remembering who we truly are.
Not separate, limited beings,
but expressions of a boundless, loving consciousness
that permeates all of creation. And this journey isn't meant to be solitary.
Oh, definitely not.
A Course in Miracles really emphasizes that.
Yeah.
Sharing this path with others, supporting each other.
Yeah.
Extending that healing out to the world.
It's all connected.
That's where the idea of the teacher of God comes in.
Yeah, the Manual for Teachers talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it clear that being a teacher of God isn't about
lecturing people.
Standing on a pedestal.
Yeah.
It's not about imparting knowledge like that.
It's recognizing that we're all teachers and students.
We learn from each other.
We reflect those principles back to each other.
And there are no accidents, right?
No accidents in salvation, the Course says.
Every encounter, every relationship.
It all has potential.
For what the Course calls a holy relationship.
A connection that helps us see each other more clearly.
Without all the ego judgments.
Yeah, stripped of the projection.
It's like a whole different way of seeing the world.
It's a shift away from separation.
From competition.
Towards cooperation.
Shared purpose.
Recognizing that we're all in this together.
Our healing is connected.
Individual healing is linked to the healing of the world.
When we heal ourselves, we help heal the world.
And when we help heal the world, we deepen our own healing.
Wow, it's a beautiful cycle.
A cycle of transformation.
Driven by forgiveness, love, understanding.
And the Course says, we have a choice.
We always have a choice.
In every single moment.
To perpetuate the dream of separation.
To awaken to love and unity.
To see the world with fear or with love. We can hold on to grievances.
Or we can embrace forgiveness.
We have the power.
To choose heaven over hell.
And not in some afterlife.
Right here, right now.
That's what A Course in Miracles is all about.
Choosing love. Choosing forgiveness.
Aligning ourselves with that power within.
And experiencing the miracles in our lives.
Seeing the beauty and holiness in everything.
Those moments of grace that remind us.
That we are all connected.
And that we are worthy.
So as we wrap up this exploration of A Course in Miracles.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
We invite you to consider these teachings.
What stood out to you?
What new insights did you gain?
How might you apply these principles in your own life?
To create more love, peace, and fulfillment.
And remember, the journey of awakening is ongoing.
It's about asking questions.
Challenging assumptions.
Choosing love over fear, always.
Keep exploring. Keep questioning.
Open yourself to the power of A Course in Miracles.
And may you experience the miracles that await you.